Hello and welcome to another Atheist reacting to videos. In this case, I'm reacting to a video by Dr. Zakir Naik. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. I was wandering on Facebook, as one is wont to do, asking people one simple question. Do you have any evidence for your claim? One intrepid soul posted this video. The sound quality sucks, but it is slightly better than the argument. It boils down to 1. The Quran gets some science right. 2. The odds of the Quran getting the science right is huge. Only the creator of the universe could know all this science before we knew it. Therefore, the Quran must be authored by God. Of course, the odds don't matter. What matters is how you arrived at your conclusion and what evidence you use. The Quran was authored 1,400 years ago, and the Greeks knew a lot and suspected more than 2,500 years ago. Several things the Quran mentions appear to be the same as what the Greeks knew or guessed at. You can't be right for the wrong reasons. And the only reason we're given is that God said it, which is fairly circular. It'd be excellent if the science the Quran claims look different from post hoc rationalization.
My name is Shakir and I'm a mechanical engineer student. I would like to ask you a question that how can you prove to an atheist scientifically the existence of God?
The brother posed the question, how can you scientifically prove the existence of God Almighty, the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Especially to an atheist who does not believe in God. The first thing I will do is that I will congratulate that atheist. I'll congratulate him. You know why? If you look around us, he's a Hindu because father is a Hindu. He's a Christian because father is a Christian. Some Muslims are Muslim because their fathers are Muslim. This person, though he may be coming from a religious background, he does not believe in the false God which his parents attribute to. So he does not believe in God. I'm congratulating him because he's accepted the first part of the Shahada, the first part of the Islamic creed, La ilaha, there is no God. Now my job is to prove illallah, but Allah, which I shall do inshallah. To the other people, I have to first remove the wrong concept of God and then prove the right concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here half my job is done. He has already said La ilaha. There's no God. Now I have to prove illallah, but Allah, which I shall do inshallah. You ask this atheist that suppose there is an object, an unidentified, maybe a flying object, which no one in the world has seen. No human being in the world knows about this object. If it's brought in front of you, and if you're asked that who will be the first person who will be able to tell you the mechanism of this unidentified object, you have to ask him the question. Who is the first person who will be able to tell you the mechanism of this new object which no one in the world has seen? After thinking for a while,
If no one has seen it before, who manufactured it? But I get his point, right? I mean, the person who built it can tell you, most likely the person who can tell you how it was put together. But who can tell you to what purpose that thing could be used? Because purpose is determined not necessarily by the person who built it. There was a thing created a number of years ago called QCat, and it was a barcode reader. And this is before QR codes became really popular, and you could just use your phone to read them. And so the idea was this company is going to give these QCats away. And then advertisers would include barcodes that would take a person directly to the website for whatever the advertiser wanted. Well, a bunch of hackers got together and went, this could be really cool for all kinds of things, and started to use the QCat for purposes for which the manufacturer never intended. And they got really, really pissy about it and attempted to squash any use other than their intended use for the QCat. They went out of business. Another company produced a really, really cool engine for water pumps, or excuse me, not for water pumps, for lawnmowers. Well, somebody said, hey, this really sucks for being a lawnmower, but it looks really good for being a water pump, for using it for a water pump. And so the people started using it for water pumps and all kinds of other different things. That manufacturer said, huh, cool, and started selling their motors set up to be pumps and all the things people were using them for, as well as mediocre mowers. They're still in business. So sometimes the creator doesn't even know what a thing will be used for.
He'll give the answer. The person who will be able to tell you the mechanism, the first person, is the creator of that object. Some may say manufacturer, some may say producer. Whatever they say, don't grapple with the word, accept it. It will be somewhat similar, either creator or producer or manufacturer. But remember what he has told you. Keep it in your mind. Then ask him the next question. How did the universe come into existence? How was it formed? He will tell you by the Big Bang Theory. Tell him the Quran mentions in Surah Anbiya, chapter 21, verse number 30, about the Big Bang Theory. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran 1400 years ago? So he will tell you, maybe it's a fluke. Don't argue with him. Next part of the question.
Well, so here we have this surah that he mentions. It says, do the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and earth were once one mass, and then we split them apart, and created from water every living thing? Will they not then believe? That is not the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory states that the universe as we know it started with an infinitely hot and dense single point that inflated and stretched. First at unimaginable speeds, and then at a more measurable rate. That's not mass. I mean, that is not one mass, that is energy. And granted, E equals mc squared. And we know that as everything cooled down, that's when we started to get particles, and that's when we started to get matter. But it wasn't all one thing. It was energy, and split them apart doesn't seem to make much sense. This really seems like post hoc rationalization. And now I suppose everyone's going to assume I'm going to jump on the end we created from water, every living thing, and I'm not going to. And the reason why is, yes, water is H2O. We're made of more than just hydrogen and oxygen. However, we use pool and other things to refer to water and the things in them, including the chemicals. But again, why did he say that? And if the answer is, well, because God said it, and the author wrote it, well, you got to prove God exists first. It's not a huge leap to look at all the water that is on the planet, even if you only live near the Mediterranean or any of the bodies of water around the Middle East. Realize that we're made of blood. Blood is wet. To go, we came from water. It's not a huge step for that. So I don't see, again, you can come to that conclusion without actually having any knowledge. And created from water every living thing, okay, what was that process, right? Is the process that they're talking about the same one as we know as abiogenesis? We don't know. And the heavens and earth were once one mass. That just, again, post hoc rationalization is a thing, and that's what it seems like here, especially given the inconsistency with the Big Bang Theory.
Did not know that the light of the moon is reflected light. We came to know recently. You ask him, he'll tell you, yes, the light of the moon is reflected light. It's not its own light. When we discovered, he will tell you recently, yesterday, 50 years back, 100 years back, yesterday in science. You tell him, the Quran mentions that the light of the moon is reflected light 1400 years ago. Who could have mentioned that? Maybe somebody had a wild guess. Don't argue with him. Continue. We thought the sun was stationary.
There's actually a Greek scientist, philosopher from 2,500 years ago that suspected that the moon was in fact reflected light. He also pointed out that an eclipse was simply the sun, the earth, and the moon all lining up correctly. So how do you know this isn't just a repeat of that particular piece of information? This is something that you need to demonstrate that they actually had this correct reasoning, that the correct reasoning. He can't just say God said it. That just doesn't work. It's post hoc rationalization.
You ask him, is it stationary? He'll say, no, it's rotating and revolving. When did you learn this? He will tell you yesterday, 50 years back, 100 years back. Quran mentions this 1400 years ago. He will hesitate, but may say, maybe some intelligent person wrote it. Don't argue with him. Continue.
Okay, and again, here we have Copernicus being the first person to put the sun at the center of the solar system. However, 1800 years earlier, a Greek astronomer, Aristarchus of Samos, had also proposed the same idea. He argued that the Earth rotated on its axis. He didn't offer the evidence that Copernicus was able to, and so without evidence, we don't tend to believe things. But there was some people thinking that. So again, what was the reasoning behind it? And if you're going to claim God said it, well, first you have to prove God exists. Otherwise, you have no reason. And it's just speculation, which is fine, but what's your evidence for God? Not that it can't go backwards like this. We're going to say God did something, first prove God did it, or God exists.
How was the universe initially? What is celestial matter? He will tell you, it was smoke. How did you come to know? We have got proof, we have got evidence. You tell him, Quran mentioned this 14 years ago. Who could have mentioned that? He will hesitate. Don't wait for response. Continue. Keep on posing question after question. All that I give in the lecture, keep on posing one question after the other. That water cycle, how do we come to know about it? Quran mentioned 14 years ago. About every living thing made from water. Who could have mentioned that? Quran speaks about botany, the male and female. Who could have mentioned that? Pose one after the other and ask the question, who could have written that? Then you tell him that there's a theory known as theory of probability. That if you have two choices, out of which one is right, the chances that you will make the correct choice just at random is 1 in 2. For example, if I toss a coin, it can either be heads or tails. The chances that I'll be right will be 1 in 2. If I toss it twice, the chances that I'll be right both the times will be 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 2, that is 1 upon 4, 25% chance. If I toss it thrice, chances I'll be right all 3 times, 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 2, it's 1 upon 8, 12.5%. A dice has got 6 sides. If I throw a dice, the chances that at random I'll be correct is 1 upon 6. If I throw it twice, the chances that both the time I'll be right will be 1 upon 6 by 1 upon 6, 1 upon 36. This is called as theory of probability. If I throw the dice twice and then toss a coin, all 3...
And he's absolutely right on this. However, you're assuming that everything has the same probability. But the probability, when you throw a dice of the dice coming up with some number, is 100%. It's going to come up with a number. No matter how many dice you throw, it's going to come up with some number. Now, the odds of that number coming up are 1 in whatever. If you're throwing 1 dice, 1 in 6, 1 in 36, etc. So it's going to come up with something, right? Just the odds are always against whatever it comes up with. And this is going to be a problem for him here in a bit. And also the fact that not everything is the same odds. And also the odds don't really matter because you're always going to have something come up when you do something randomly.
Being right will be 1 upon 6 by 1 upon 6 by 1 upon 2. Is 1 upon 72. So you ask him, the chances maybe, if you ask, what is the shape of the earth? There are various shapes. Some may say it is flat, some may say it's triangular, some may say it is hexagonal, some may say pentagonal, some may say heptagonal, some may say square. Say there can be 10 shapes. Some may say it is round, it is spherical. The chances that if anyone makes a wild guess, it being correct is 1 upon 10.
And this is where he actually starts to get into trouble because he's assuming that everything is a wild guess, not an educated guess. That changes things quite a bit. The Greeks made very good, educated guesses that the Earth was round. They even calculated how round it was. They calculated the circumference of the Earth. That was long before we knew that we could actually look at the Earth and had other more modern scientific measurements. So just, and the assumption is that that everything is just a wild chance. No, it's not. And that makes a difference. Notice that he even, he said that the Earth could be square. Nobody has ever proposed that. So while he is just kind of saying, worst case scenario, let's say there are 10 shapes. 1 in 10 of getting those out of those 10 shapes. Okay, yeah, but that's not the way science is done. And that doesn't really help your case much when you start making completely random things like this. But he's also just saying, doesn't matter what the odds are. Let's say that we can only reasonably conclude that there are 4 round shapes it could be, 1 in 4. That's kind of what he's doing. But missing the point, missing some things like this and not being accurate is also going to be a problem here in a bit.
The light of the moon, it can either be its own light or it can be reflected light. The chances that you make a wild guess and it being correct will be 1 upon 2. The chances that both shape of the earth and light of the moon being reflected light, both being correct, if you make a wild guess, it will be 1 upon 10 multiplied by 1 upon 2, it is 1 upon 20. What can the living creatures be made of? Some may say sand, some may say stone, some may say aluminium, some may say gold, say 1,000 materials you can name. Some may say water, some may say silver, 1,000 materials. The chances that you make a wild guess and one of them being right, according to mathematics, is 1 upon 1,000. The chances that all 3 being correct, the earth is spherical, light of the moon is reflected light, and every living creature created from water is correct, will be 1 upon 10 multiplied by 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 1,000. Answer comes to 1 upon 20,000 or 0.005%. Quran speaks about scientific science more than 1,000 verses. In 3 verses, the answer comes to 0.05%. If you apply probability theory to all this being at random chance, it will come to 0, negligible. And in maths, anything 1 in 10 raised to 50, it's equal to 0. So you ask.
I have never heard that and couldn't imagine anybody in math ever saying that because it makes 0 sense, right? 1 to 10 to the 50th is considered 0. No, it's a number so close to 0 it might not matter, but it's not. It's 0. So he's going to say there's 0 chance of it being right using this, and I have to reject it because until you can show me a mathematician who said that about something in general. Now, there may be a specific set of circumstances where 1 to 10 to the 50th is considered 0. In some set of particular circumstances, but it just doesn't make any sense. Non-zero chance is still a non-zero chance no matter how small it is. Also, we'll find out, the odds don't really matter.
Your atheist friend, who could have written this? The only answer he can give you is this first answer, the creator, the manufacturer, the person who has produced it.
No, that's not actually correct because we have to know how they came to the conclusion. Everything he's mentioned so far is stuff that the Greeks either knew or suspected 2,500 years ago. He's claiming 1,400 years. There's a lot of scientists, a lot of people observing the world 2,500 years ago and coming to some very correct conclusions. Why not 1,400 years ago, right? And some of the things that they say aren't necessarily true simply because their reasoning was wrong. They may have gotten it right, they may have guessed right, but that's just it, it's a guess. The question is can you be wrong for the right reasons? And the answer to that is no.
That's the only answer, there's no other answer. What science is saying today is they are not eliminating God. They are eliminating models of God. La ilaha illallah. They are not eliminating God, but models of.
Okay, so what's your model of God that can actually be supported? He never goes into that. So let's go back to can you be correct for the wrong reasons? Let's imagine a scenario where our perceptions are at odds. We're both observing a pasture and we each see an animal. You assert it's a sheep while I argue it's a sheepdog. We agree to approach for a closer look, and indeed, it's a sheep. In this instance, your claim was correct. However, there's a sheepdog behind a hill in the same pasture. Was I correct in claiming that there is a sheepdog in the pasture? If you say I was, then the evidence that I had at the time, does that matter? Doesn't appear to if you think I was right about something I had no knowledge of, no way to demonstrate. Because remember, my demonstration of my claim that it was a sheepdog was the creature we saw that we determined was a sheep. So the evidence that you have matters. You can be right you can guess right, and for all the wrong reasons doesn't mean you're right. Right? A broken clock is not right twice a day. And for those of you who grew up on digital clocks where it's never right because it's never showing anything, this would be a clock with hands on a clock face, right? If they don't ever move twice a day on a 12-hour clock, they will be correct. That's just accident and happenstance. That's not the clock telling the right time. That's still the clock being broken. You simply can't be right if your reasoning is wrong. You can be lucky, but science isn't about luck. Knowledge isn't about luck. Knowledge is about being able to substantiate your beliefs with evidence and good arguments. And it doesn't really matter that the Quran makes correct claims about the universe. What matters is how it arrived at that conclusion. Anyone can eventually offer enough guesses to be accurate. Anyone can make observations and come to a conclusion, but there still needs to be more evidence to get to that conclusion. If you're going to claim Allah told them that he created the universe, the first thing you have to do is show them that Allah exists, and then that Allah created the universe, and then Allah told somebody about it. Using the sheep analogy, if I claim that the shepherd told me about the sheepdog in the pasture, am I right? What if I can't demonstrate that I talked to the shepherd? Both situations are the same. But no, science is not eliminating models of God. Science is offering models of how the universe works. None of those models have God in them. They have natural explanations. And all models are wrong, but some models are useful. But ultimately, the chain of logic that Dr. Naik offers is this. Premise one, God caused the Quran has got some things right, therefore God. It's circular. The only way out is to prove that God exists, and then you can claim he told the authors anything about how the universe works. We'd also expect those explanations to be more than people from 1400 years ago could observe or reason their way to. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you do, like, subscribe, do all the things. Check out my bio for my link tree where you can find more from me. Also link to my Patreon account if you wish to support me that way. And have a nice day.